Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, a show dedicated to helping you expand your capacity, take your life in every area to an entirely new level, and creating a day and a life by design. Here's your host, Dan Hafner. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Run Your Day podcast. As always, your host, Dan Hafner, joining you here this morning. Welcome back. Today's topic is this: getting out of bed. As always, appreciate you guys joining. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. All right, my friends. So, gonna be an interesting show today. Got some cool stuff for you guys. And really what we're going to talk about is your boy Dan Hafner's inability to get his ass out of bed lately. So a little bit of backstory here. I was never, like, growing up, I could get out of bed. Like, I was all right with getting out of bed and doing things. I used to get up early and go hunting and things like that. But I became, weirdly enough, a morning person throughout college. I took a job where I got up at like 6 a.m. I had to start work at 6 a.m. Working for like the physical plant at my school. And that kind of made me a morning person, weirdly enough, in college, when some people go the other way, right? But I've kind of carried that over into my life since college. Now, over the past couple of years, I've gone through several different phases when I think back on it. And I've gone through phases of sleeping in till 6, 7 o'clock, then getting up and just being on social media for a half hour, and then getting ready and going to work and doing nothing with my morning, right? Then I've gone through phases where I've gotten up at between 4 and 4:30 a.m. on a consistent basis, worked out, meditated, journaled, did all kinds of awesome things, social media posting, like just a powerful ass morning routine, right? So I find myself kind of oscillating here. And over the past few weeks, I've kind of reverted back to, well, it's kind of been off and on. Like, one day I'll be able to get up at 5. The next day I'll sleep until 7. The next day I'll get up at 4:30. The next day I'll get up at 5. The next day I'll get up at 6:30. It's just like completely off. And I'm off of my game. I just can't get my ass out of bed, right? So what does this have to do with anything, right? So what this has to do with is routines. All of us have routines and habits in our lives that we fall into, or we make by design. We most likely default into them, right? But they have to do with everything. They have to do with your morning routine, how you get up, how you get out of bed, how you get dressed, how you brush your teeth, how you make breakfast, how you do things at work, how you interact with your coworkers, your supervisor, how you drive home. There's so many habits that we're not even conscious of that just become our reality, right? And I'm no expert. There's a bunch of other books out there that talk to you on the Power of Habit or Atomic Habits, or all these different books out there that you can go get yourself and read. But what I'm talking more about is this overarching process of what happens when routines break down, and what happens to you psychologically and physically when these routines break down, right? And what I was able to come up with was this three principled system, I guess you would want to call it. Three things I want to talk about today, right? So especially in this world where a lot of us are staying home, we're quarantined, we're either working from home or unemployed or self-employed. It's been tough, right? Like it's been very, very difficult. And maybe you find it easier to work this way. Maybe you find it harder to live this way. For about the past year, I have been the one completely 100% in charge of my schedule. And I find it difficult some days to stay on task, to make sure I'm doing the right things, to make sure I'm getting everything done I need to get done. And it gets to be a lot. Like, it's freaking stressful, right? So the first thing is that I find that helps, and I've kind of talked with this, with some other people and some clients and different people as well. But the first thing I want to talk about, number one, is you have to create structure. And the way I do this is in time blocking. I've talked about this before on the show, but I really, really think that this is a helpful thing, at least if you're starting from a place of just like confusion, overwhelm, like, I don't know what the hell's going on in my life, I need to figure some shit out. especially if you're working from home, right, is time blocking. Between the hours of, 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I work. Between 12 and 1, I have lunch. Between 1 to 5, I work. 5 to 10 o'clock, I have home time, right? Like, I'm talking like 30,000 foot view. Like, where's your structure, your larger scale structure in your life? Because what this does for you is it helps you if you get lost, if you get tired, if you get sidetracked, if you get pulled away from something, which happens a lot, right? Especially if you're working from home with kids, right? You can go back and, okay, what bucket am I in? What time block am I in? Okay, this is still working time. Like, okay, I'm good. And this might seem very elementary and straightforward, but like, it really, really helps when you practice this mentally and you actually can get back to reverting, like, because inside of that bucket, I'm going to get to the second thing here. The second thing inside of that bucket is context. So when you get lost and you've even lost your structure, or you get pulled away, you have to go to the grocery store, or the toilet breaks, or whatever the hell goes on, right? You get back inside of this structure, then you place the context inside of there. Now, this is your to-do list, this is your hit list, this is your checklist, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? And there's all kinds of resources out there. There's Trello, there's Jira, there's just freaking Google to-do list apps. There's a million of them. There's all kinds of different things. I don't care if you have a journal and a pen and you just write shit down. Like, there's so many different ways to track what you're doing and get inside of that context. Now maybe you're not a person that works off of a to-do list. Maybe you have a mental to-do list. If you do, don't do that anymore. I don't understand how you can do that. I mean, I operate off that sometimes, and I find myself like, what the hell did I do today, right? But inside of that structure, you then have the context, which is really inside of this 8 to 12 block, I have priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4, X, just ... right? So the third thing that these two kind of feed into, and I'll share a little bit of a story with you, is first things first, right? First things first, inside of your routines, inside of your habits, and making sure that you're actually taking care of the important things first. If you've ever read or listened to The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey, great book, highly recommend it. If you haven't read it, must read, right? He tells a story about this professor that wanted to illustrate this point to students. If you already heard this story, I apologize, but I'll make it quick. In essence, he had 3 things. He had a set of larger rocks, a set of smaller rocks, and sand. And then he had a jar, and he said, I want you to fit all 3 of these things, of all these, into this jar, right? Poured the sand in, tried to put the rocks in. There was no room for any of the bigger rocks or anything like that, right? Long story short, they found if they put the larger rocks in first, then you dump in the smaller rocks, they fill in the smaller spaces, then you fill in the sand, like the little things, it all fit in the same jar, right? Different approach, radically different result. So the bigger rocks in this metaphor are the most important things. You have to fill up your jar in your day with the most important things first. This is what establishes your routines. This is what establishes your habits, and makes sure that you're getting the most important things done first. Then comes the context. Then comes the to-do list things, which are the secondary rocks, which are the smaller rocks, right? And then the sand is everything else in between, right? The doorbell ringing, or letting the dog out, or the phone call that you have to take that lasts 10 minutes from somebody at work, or the Zoom call that is this meeting to have a meeting, or whatever it might be. The neighbor knocks on the door and wants to give you a tray of brownies, whatever it is, right? So remembering that the first things come first is man, like I can't even really, I mean, it sounds straightforward, and this isn't groundbreaking stuff, but it's just something for all of us to remember. And I even have to remind myself of sometimes, right? And I think, how this all relates to getting out of bed is, as we get so far into our routines, we get so blind to the results that we may or may not be getting from these routines. It's so easy to just be like, well, this thing's the most important, I need to focus on this. But when you really take a step back, that might be sand. That might be a smaller rock. Just that one priority you have to do today might not be a big rock if you really, really think about it, right? So my question for you today, as we wrap up the show, where in your life is there a routine, a pattern, a habit, a behavior that you find yourself reverting to or even oscillating between, right? Like I have, days where I get out of bed early and I don't get out of bed early. Where in your life is there a behavior, story, pattern, or behavior that you oscillate in between and you can't be consistent with, right? Where is that? Is that inside of a fitness routine? Is that inside of a diet? A lot of us oscillate with our diets. Is it inside of a work startup routine or a pattern you have at work or in your business or a relationship or where is that? Think critically about that. And the second part is, how can you change that? How can you start to be like, okay, I need to change this routine or I need to alter this or maybe even just get rid of it altogether, right? Because the more we analyze ourselves, the more we analyze our behaviors and the results that those get us, the more we can affect change in our lives, right? So that is my question for you today. And that is going to bring an end to this show. So as always, my friends, thank you all so much for joining. And if you do like the show, please feel free to leave me a review on iTunes or share the show with someone that you think would resonate with this message. You can always check us out on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. At RunYourDay1 is the Instagram handle, and at RunYourDay is the Twitter handle. All right, my friends, as always, head over to runyourdaypodcast.com, sign up for our weekly newsletter, get more Run Your Day information, change your habits, change your life. All right, my friends, that is all for today. Dan Hafner signing off. Make it a great rest of your day.